This isn't a self-help show. It's a soul remembering. I'm Cynthia Sharp, educator, trauma-informed practitioner, proud mom to a son with Down syndrome, and vice president of Additional Needs Incorporated. I created Down to Heal because too many of us are told to survive and never taught how to heal. This is where we change that. Every other week, I sit down with parents, practitioners, neurodivergent voices, and body-based wisdom keepers. We talk about what really heals: nervous system regulation, somatic truth, community care, and the stuff you don't hear in the mainstream. Because healing isn't talked down, it's shared, it's messy, it's sacred. If you've lived it, studied it, questioned it, or been broken by it, this is the space for you. Down to Heal is a space I wish I had, honest, whole, and held. We're not here to fix. We're here to feel, reflect, and rise together. Listen on Spotify or YouTube. Let's get down to heal. In this grace-filled episode of Down to Heal, we step into the sacred space where science meets spirit, communication. My guest, Ann Steiner, prompt-trained speech-language pathologist, has helped countless children find their voice, including my own son. Together, we explore childhood apraxia of speech, not just as a diagnosis, rather as a lived experience. We discuss how the prompt method uses touch, rhythm, and presence to reawaken the body's innate map for communication, offering a pathway even for nonverbal children. Beyond therapy and technique, this is a conversation about emotional safety, resilience, and the healing power of being heard. It is about the quiet courage of parents, the sensitivity of children, and the sacred unfolding of voice and connection. If you've ever longed to hear your child's voice or to be reminded of your own, this episode is for you. Let's begin.
Welcome to Down to Heal, Anne. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
I reached out to you. I should rewind and say Jack started with you back in 2017 and then finished in 2022, right? Right after like COVID and all that.
Correct.
And we just reconnected. I mean, we've kind of messaged each other every once in a while, but we just reconnected when I said, I've got this amazing project that my heart just needs to expand on. Will you help me? And you were gracious enough to say yes.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity to talk and share what we learned together.
Amen. So, would you please help the audience know who you are and what brought you here?
My name is Ann Steiner. I've been in speech therapy forever. I speak Spanish and English, and forever meaning I did 28 years in the Wisconsin public school districts before moving here. And now I've been with We Health for more than 8 years. Don't want to add that up. But I absolutely love what I do. And speech therapy has been my passion since I've been younger.
And you are a wonderful speech therapist who has specialized into prompt, right? We found you right as you were joining Lee Golisano. And
I was there 1 month.
It was amazing for me as a parent because I really felt spiritually guided in that, because at the time, the therapy center that we were going to, we had Jack, had just reduced his speech therapy time to like half an hour a week. And I remember going, my child doesn't talk and he's almost 6 years old and you're reducing his speech therapy. That doesn't compute to me. And when I toured Lee Golisano, the director at that time, because it's a new director now, had said, oh yeah, we're getting a speech therapist who does prompt. And for some reason, there was something electrical about it for me that just kind of gave me confirmation that I don't know who you are, you're it. And I needed you. So tell me about prompt therapy and how it helps
Okay.
in the kinesthetic and tactile aspects for those with sensory processing or the neurodivergent.
Okay. I want to kind of clarify because what I'm saying will be all my experiences, my personal opinions, and I have no affiliations with the different things that I use or say, just so
That's
I'm
fair.
not receiving any monetary benefits for doing this. Um, but the difference I see with prompt and what it is, it's a multisensory approach, and it really helps when I'm able to control jaw, lip movement, lip rounding, retraction, lip jaw height, and lingual movement, and other approaches that are out there. People swear by phonological approaches or traditional approaches, but for me, I I understand how phonological describes speech sounds, but I also understand why, if you only know those approaches, someone with more motor coordination difficulties with those approaches, you don't make progress. And if you're not making progress, insurance requires us to place the children on a break.
So help me
So,
understand for those who may not be aware, what is the phonological versus like what you're describing in prompt?
okay. Phonological approaches describe how speech sounds are made and places them into groups. For instance, they might say P's, B's are stop sounds because they're quick and done. And an SH might be a continuant, shh, because it keeps
Gotcha.
going. But to me, they describe the sound, but they really don't show enough to teach the kids
How to
how to
make
produce them and make them, especially if they have any motor sequencing or motor coordination difficulties. And I found it just to be like wonderful in more than one aspect, and just kept getting training. So I did the introduction in English, and then I went back and did the introduction in Spanish.
very
I went
cool.
to Mexico for that one, and then did the bridging class, which kind of helps put it into the therapy base.
Okay.
But I was obsessed.
So help me because we started with you and Jack hadn't quite yet been diagnosed. He obviously was diagnosed with Down syndrome, but we weren't quite sure until literally synchronicity. I love my business name and I love the spirit, time and space coming together. Was that the school speech pathologist and you literally within like 2 weeks of each other both said, "Oh, we think he has apraxia." And then because it was two separate speech pathologists, it was like, okay, well, duh. He obviously does if two speech pathologists. So explain to me, like, what is apraxia and what, let's start there. And then we'll go into, what it looks like
Okay.
in different populations.
Okay. For me, apraxia is difficulty with the coordination, like the brain musculature, coordination, making your tongue move the way it's supposed to for speech, the way that lip coordination, the jaw height. It really impacts the child's ability to connect from here to form those speech sounds. For instance, one day a kid might be able to say a word, and you're like, wow, he's got it now. And oh, he can't repeat it again.
So there's a lot of regression with it.
It's not regression. It's just some days they're able to do something, and another day they're not. But you'll see a lot of difficulties with that motor coordination and the learning of that sequencing of the movements of all the articulators.
So is it more about like the brain not communicating to the muscles? Is that my understanding? Or is it like,
That's how I see it.
okay, would that be because of a stroke? Would that be because of blood flow? Is it all different in every individual?
I think it has a multitude of causals. Some things can be related to diagnoses. Um, Kids with cerebral palsy, kids with Down syndrome. Sometimes kids with autism, we see the motor sequencing problems in greater frequency. But I have seen children with aphasia, with strokes, with different things that have also caused, and in elderly populations, the same kind of not knowing how to form and how to get those sounds back.
So is childhood speech of apraxia, is that how it's said,
Hmm.
different than like an older population apraxia? Or is it still the same and it's just one is, you know, in childhood and one is in the elderly population?
I see childhood apraxia of speech being one particular thing, and speech after stroke being another motor
Okay.
coordination difficulty.
Okay. So we weren't sure. We were wondering why Jack was so delayed compared to his peers. I mean, I remember looking at a girl who was in his class. Yes, she was a year older than him. And man, she could also with Down syndrome, she could just like motor mouth. Like I was just blown. And here he is, like barely saying a word. So, what do parents look for in their neuro? Is it different from, Down syndrome to cerebral palsy to autism? What do they look for? What are the early signs that parents can like seek or kind of investigate in their child and go, okay, that's one sign. How many signs do they look for?
I think parents often see signs early on.
Hmm.
Um, it can be difficulties with feeding. Some kids will be thrusting their tongue forward and the food will be coming all out, even at an age where their tongue should still be staying in. Some kids will continue just munching their food up and down with the movement and won't know how to control their tongue to move the food side to side to eat it. So there's a lot that plays a
Into
role and connects with that muscle coordination, because often if they have speech problems, we're going to see it in their eating because it's all the same control of the oral musculature.
Well, then let's go there because I know we had talked about this, and I said I was shocked that we were told as parents um, that we shouldn't have Jack. It wasn't necessary to have Jack do speech therapy for the first year. What can parents do if they're told that and speech therapists don't take them on? Because that's exactly what was happening with us.
And I can understand part of that because you're going to see feeding problems probably pretty early on. And by 10 months, you're going to want to see kids doing those duplicated syllables, mama, dada, papa, um, wawa, whatever they're asking for, baba. You
Hmm.
want to see those duplicated syllables. If they're not starting to do some of those early sounds, we're already having suspicions that there's something going on. And that's at 6 months. And, well, 6 months, I shouldn't say 6 months. 6 months is what I did with my kids. At 8 months, 9 months, you should start seeing these single words develop. And by a year, you should see them be there and you should totally understand them. But with apraxia, kids often also have problems with the vowels. And you'll often notice that the vowel sounds are off, or maybe their jaw height is too much, um, and it'll make their sounds sound funny.
So give
Some
me an example. What do you mean by like jaw height is too
oh, you're putting me there.
much? Well, I mean,
So if I'm going mama, some kids might ma,
oh, very cool.
and
So that control of their jaw.
correct, and they might get extra sounds in there because they're opening too far, and by the time they get back up, it's mama.
Right.
It adds extra to it where you'd want to just hear mama.
Okay. So what can parents do that are like fun activities, either in like changing diapers or tummy time or like the day to day living for that first year to increase like speech.
Everything face to face. Some of the first things you want to gain are the eye contact, the shared smiles, but you want them imitating your facial movements. So if you're doing that mama mama mama, or if you're doing the smiles or the kisses, any of those motor movements that they're copying are helpful for speech.
You know what's so funny? I told this to our cardiologist that I also interviewed. I was so nervous in the very beginning of having Jack, right? Just the whole going through the acceptance of the diagnosis that, you know, I had, I was a teacher, but I wasn't an early childhood teacher. So I was used to like, okay, let's learn 1+1, right? But
Yeah.
no one teaches you like how to play with a baby who's nonverbal.
There's a lot that you need to do for joint attention. And the joint attention between you is going to be even the ooh or uh-oh, all those early things. And with me, I even added the sign language in there. And those are copying motor movements as well. So often if we see apraxia here, there's a chance it's going to be seen here too. But I taught my kids at 6 months a variety of signs and drove the babysitter nuts because she would, what's this? He kept doing this, or he kept doing this. What's this? So, but he knew how to tell me if something hurt and where it was, and that was all at 6 months because being a speech
Communication,
therapist,
right?
communication was everything to me. But those became his first words. So I still promote other means of communication along with the speech for kids that need it.
We were really grateful we did the baby signs. So we did learn some. And, you know,
The kids don't lose those.
actually the other day he said, "Thank you, Mom." And I was like, still, okay, you are 15, right? But it's, I wish I had really kind of stuck with it because I think that there was a bit of frustration when I personally felt, and maybe this was my own hang up as a parent, like I really want you to speak. I really feel like you can, right? And so I'm not going to enforce the sign language, and I'm going to ask you to tell me. So I know I'm telling this because I want parents to learn, right?
Uh-huh.
From my mistakes or from, the good and the bad, right?
Correct.
So it can create sometimes post traumatic stress in kids, right? With
Yeah.
parents saying either do it over again until you get it right, or this is how we're going to do it, and this is what we're going. How do you suggest parents monitor that and balance that communication, that want and that desire?
It's hard. So many parents want the kids to speak right away. But if they can't speak, there needs to be other means of communication that are there. Because, like my kids, the signs did not slow their language development. The sign language enhanced. They learned it was like they were bilingual. Bam, if they knew the word in sign language, those were their first words, when they spoke. But I also I mean, you're not alone in that. Parents often think, okay, now we're doing prompt. Let's get rid of all the other communication devices and everything. But if the kids are using communication devices, they can do a whole lot more with that. Or with sign language, they can express things with that they might not be able to express yet with words. So it's like taking away their current communication and saying, okay, do this now, and you're not going to be as good at it. But
I never thought of
that's
that
kind of like a
during that time.
PTSD for the kids. It's traumatic.
It really is, and for the parents as well to go, okay, I want to understand you, and I'm begging for this because this is how we're taught
Yeah,
is
it's
true
true.
communication. and having a neurologically different child, recognizing that behavior is communication, avoidance is communication.
Oh,
There's
animation of these kids is unreal. What they can do to
right?
communicate.
And even just plain energy, you can feel them and you can go, oh, okay, they're frustrated, they're calm, they're whatever it is, you can tell something's off. And that's communication.
Absolutely.
Yet when we're in trauma mode, it becomes very difficult to remember they're human beings as we are human beings and we're meant to grow from each other.
It's the mama caring, I think, that takes over. But we also have to remember that parents go through the whole grieving process. And parents go through denial, blame, anger, frustration,
Shame.
and shame. Absolutely. And so when parents are going through those before they get to acceptance, that period can be difficult on the kids too. So it's like the kids are going through it, mom, dad are going through it. It's hard on everybody involved until everybody comes to a happy point knowing who they are and who God made them be, you know?
Right. So, how do you recommend parents having more fun in the process?
Oh, you know me.
Everything
Everything we
always
did.
had fun, but I mean, look at this conversation.
I made everything, or I try to make everything fun and learning, whether it's using microphones for play, doing karaoke style
That's
things. Um, a lot of it I would do first this, then that. But everybody that comes to me, we're working on something that's not easy for them. So if I was to just do, okay, let's do all this difficult stuff and no fun, or even if that's the same case at home, or say this, say that, say this, the kids are going to definitely shut down and have temper tantrums over it. So usually I let the kids pick out part of the therapy session, and 3/4 of my room has an overabundance of toys. but that's but you have to keep it fun. And a lot
right.
of times I'll even do the prompts to get the kids to try and say things during play, and just pick out a few special target words and rock with it, because some of the kids won't let me do the prompts like to target words to learn. They might not be at that level yet. So if I'm doing prompts, sometimes it might be while they're interacting with me on an iPad or singing a song, or it can be very different what kids work for.
And I love that in our sessions that, if you were using the iPad, it would be some fun, like, okay, Halloween game. You had some Halloween things, and we would take a pause, and it would be like, okay, like ghost, boo, right? And
Boo, ew, the worms or
right?
whatever, bugs.
It would be so fun. And then we would do the exercise and then come right back to it. And it really helped teach me as a parent to also regulate and go, okay, we do need to make this more fun, because and I knew this as a teacher, but yet putting it into practice as a parent can sometimes be challenging because there's so much to do as a parent. You know, not that there isn't when you're a teacher. There's just different. It's just a different role.
And progress can be so much slower that it makes you want to push more, because learning that coordination is more difficult and it takes time. Even with the prompt approach that I like to use, I don't know if it's proven, but for me it creates motor memory, and the motor memory of where the tongue should go, the jaw height, where the lips should be. It all creates motor memory, but those new connections take time to develop. And once they're there, then the kids just take off with it, and it's like they've got a whole new communication system that's like, woohoo!
Right. And that's called neuroplasticity, where, neurons that fire together, wire together, right? And you're literally retraining the brain every single speech therapy session.
Absolutely.
So, what about those parents who don't do speech therapy at home? Do you have any of those? Never.
That don't
right?
follow through.
Who don't follow through and go, you do it.
I have parents that just send their child in for speech and aren't able to follow through, so they don't see the work, the play, the whole progress together. And when the kids are just sent straight into me, I don't see the same progress. When the parents come in and see what I'm doing, and they do it even at 5 minutes at home, the progress, the parents make me look good in reality, because then the kids start learning more. And even if they're not doing the prompts that I'm doing, they can go home and practice even 5 of those words that we were using in front of a reverse camera mirror, with your child, or, any kind of fun way. Practice them before bedtime, and those kids remember how to do it. And if not, you're still giving them a visual model.
And that's great that you say that, because I never felt like I was using all your tools on a daily basis. Yet I did follow through to some degree, right, with him, because I wanted to help accelerate his learning. And I'm going to go there because our first few sessions were quite interesting, right?
I've seen things that I'd never seen before.
And I remember walking in, and like the first time you were like, he's dislocating his jaw. And then the second time, and then the third time, and it was the fourth time. And I'm like, so what am I supposed to do with that in my head?
I was trying to use the prompts to control his jaw, but he kept jetting it forward or to the side. That jaw control was very difficult for him. And that's like the first part besides the phonation that you have to control. And so it was really tough.
So, I mean, again, synchronicity. I take him to the orthotist the next day, and the orthotist looks at me and says, have you thought of binding up his legs? And I'm like, well, why would I do that? And he's like, well, he's walking pigeon-toed. And I'm like, all right, now I really don't like this. He just heard that his jaw's is dislocating. Now he's hearing that his feet are all wonky, and he needs to be all bound up. I mean, he's going to be like the mummy, right? And I was so like frustrated and angry in my own mind.
And I speak everything I'm thinking out loud,
and I respect that. And I wasn't mad at you. I was just mad at like, okay, I don't want his body taking that on. And I had just like, here he was almost 6, and I had been doing energy work for 4 years, right? And I had just been trained in biofeedback. I was learning biofeedback by 2 women who literally taught the world, and they welcomed me into their office, and I am honored and delighted to have been trained by them. Yet, I knew that the energy work that I had been taught wasn't going to do what I needed to be done, and I knew that the biofeedback to train his brain, that was going to take too long, because it literally takes sending and waiting for that to send, and then waiting for it to register and all that kind of good stuff. And I was like, all right, I'm going to pray, and I'm going to go home, and we're going to clear his energy field. And I brought him back to you the very next day.
Like, what did you do?
And you look at me and you go, oh my God, he can't make any of the sounds we've been working on. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I just relaxed all his muscles. I wish I could have like taken a camera, right? And taken a picture of your face at that time. Like,
what happened?
I don't know what you've been doing, woman, but I'm going to just focus on your child now.
Yeah, I remember those things.
And then going, listen, if he can't make it by the following session, which was the following Monday, then we have something to be concerned about. But literally, I just relaxed. I do energy work. I just relaxed all his muscles. And you're like, yeah, okay. because literally what I had been done.
I had not understood what you had actually done. So
I didn't either. Honestly, he was so little at that time. I put him on his bed, ready for bed, to be perfectly honest, and I prayed. And I asked God for guidance. And in my mind's eye, I had a shaman come in, felt like it was ancestral lineage, and he literally told me what to do.
wow.
And you got to see the results.
Yeah. The following time he wasn't jetting it, and it was really,
And he
was
knew the
intense.
sounds.
He knew the sounds and he could do it. It was like from going from nothing to, okay, I got this. It
And
was
every
pretty
single
cool.
time I started picking your brain. Okay, so what do you see? And what do you want to see? And so we started kind of playing together, but you didn't understand what I was doing. Yet I was
Correct.
picking your mind going, what is his reality? And what is your perception of that reality? So that we can both create a completely different reality so that his mind and his body processes and holds and retains it, because anything is possible. Yet we don't remember that we've got abracadabra in our hearts, right? We got that magic to
Yeah.
make anything possible.
Sure. And I've never given up on kids like that. And for Jack, it took him a while to get that like coordination, but he started doing all the different sounds in isolation, and then going from there with him was, I mean, it was pretty cool. And knowing that you were working at home with him, practicing those same words, and that you were attending all the therapy sessions with me, um, guaranteed. I do have parents who attend and their kids do really well. I have some parents who, well, there's different things, whether it be lower SES or they come in with transportation, they have other children that are younger. Sometimes it's just not a possibility for those parents to come in. But I have one, she comes in maybe once a month. And for me, that's like, yay, because at least then she sees what I'm doing with her child. And I know she can follow through doing a couple things. Um, but that makes it huge when parents attend. And your participation was over the top because I knew you were doing more than what I was doing.
I don't know that I was. I think I was just honestly supporting his mind, body, and spirit. And I think that as simple as that sounds, right? It's very profound when the whole body, including an adult, feels their mind, body, and spirit is being supported. Things can happen in exponential time, and that's just quantum physics. But we can go down that rabbit hole if we want to or not. And I don't know if quantum physics plays a part into prompt therapy because of like force and.
Oh, I suppose to some extent, because with some kids' phonation, I have to start just almost to use their chest like a bellows to get the
breath.
to get the breath and the phonation. Yeah, and the longer breath, the more they can say. So some kids, if they're doing shallow breathing, I need the deeper breathing.
So you need that potential energy to go into kinetic and moving
Move it.
energy. Very cool. Never thought about that. Probably do in session, but I never thought about that with children, so to speak, in speech. So is there something that you would like for families to know, that things that they should consider? Are there like alternative methods like probiotics or supplements to help with better like brain or speech therapy, or that would help support their speech development?
Oh, are you going to the gut brain speech connection? That's all new research.
Isn't it?
And I totally see it because they used to say that kids with autism, or if they didn't learn how to speak by age 5, they weren't going to. But a lot of those kids have gut issues because they're eating either fish crackers, Cheez-Its. I'm not a supporter of these things or unsure. But I mean, these are things that are part of the diet. I shouldn't say I'm not affiliated
The
with these
American
things.
diet, right? And it's
Is-
unfortunate that it's a lot of sugar, a lot of carbohydrates.
It is, but there's got to be something that's making them crave those things. But then as the kids' brains are developing, they don't have the same nutrients to develop the speech part of the brain or even sometimes the cognitive part of the brain. And I think that's sometimes where we get some of the other disorders that impact kids. I'm not a doctor, so I can't say for sure, but my thought is this may be part of what's happening with kids with ADHD, with autism, or some of the hyperactivity, impulsivity that we see because of diet. And I'm not sure, I'm not the dietitian, the doctor. I mean, as far as how to get that to change so they have a healthy gut, so that it positively has an impact on speech. I think the only child I haven't been able to reach and help with speech development had all kinds of gut issues. And I mean, I've helped kids that were 13 start to talk. It's just they don't learn. I mean, it takes a lot more effort and connections and new connections that the parents wonder, oh, he has to learn all that to make the sound, where we just automatically do it.
Right.
It takes the child longer because they're learning it sound by sound and then coordinating it all. So it's a whole different speech connection. So if those kids get single words or double words, to me at least, if I can get kids doing 2 words, even though they might be able to be thinking and like wanting to express 6, if their device or whatever battery dies, they still have some means of communication. And that was always my big thing. But I think dietitians play a big role here too, and anybody else that would handle stuff with that gut brain connection.
And I remember Jack being a child who, like you said, would have like 6 words in his brain, but yet only be able to express like 2 at a time. And boy, when he got to the 6, it was like, I wish that upon me.
That's awesome.
Right. And yes, children with Down syndrome, autism, have high inflammatory markers. You know, as a biofeedback specialist, I have seen a lot of kids with a lot of gut issues. And obviously, through biofeedback, I'm retraining their brains, I'm reducing their inflammation.
Okay.
And no, I'm not a registered dietitian. And no, I don't uh, do, I do work on my son's diet and what he is allowed to process. And we talk a lot about the health choices because I think it's necessary now to instill and to make those patterns relevant so that when he's on his own, he knows, oh, I chose that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make me feel so good. It was fun going down, right? And wow, I've got like eczema or I've got psoriasis or I've got like I'm jumping out of my skin literally because I've seen that with him with
Okay.
certain things that where it's like it just wired him up and he wasn't able to process, right? We take for granted like, oh, a blue snow cone or the gummy bears or whatever. Oh,
Uh,
just let the kids have it. It's so cute. Or those goldfish.
there's so much that they say about the connections between all those colorants and the
Mhm.
foods and the gluten and the casein that it's hard to know what to cut out. But most of my kids that have gut issues are high on all of those.
You know, it's been a blessing to have him in that regard because it really has taught me that even you and I shouldn't be having those because it can create, you know, if you think about like financial stability, every little penny that you put into the bank, you know, grows, right? Same thing with
the
our
body.
food,
It's the same with our body.
right? It makes those deposits, man. It can turn on and turn off.
Uh-huh.
Genetic expression, and we can go down the epigenetics, all that, but we won't today.
That's true. That lactose intolerance is another big thing, right?
Right. And kids with, a lot of inflammation are either diuretic or constipated, and that alone can affect like
Food
processing.
processing,
Mm-hmm.
food choices,
Truly.
not wanting to eat.
Emotional regulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when your tummy is hurting because you gotta go, but you don't want to go, all those control issues at the age of 2 and 3 that happen,
That's
right?
true.
That really just impedes on like the ability to absorb information and be able to express that information. So,
That's
what
just,
else would you like to share for the additional needs community that what does it look differently in a child with Down syndrome versus like autism, apraxia?
it can.
Okay.
Often kids that have autism, a lot of children I see, some of those kids are like cognitively brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
They lack social skills and language, joint attention, eye contact, but the language learning, I mean, I can teach them a few sounds and they go with it, and a lot of kids will become verbal a lot more quickly. So I don't know if it's always apraxia so much as not always knowing what's expected of them. So, but there are truly cases of apraxia, within. But I've often used prompt even for kids that are nonverbal, just to kind of show them what the expectation is. And by using the prompts, the language will develop. So it may develop more quickly because it might not actually be a motor speech coordination difficulty. Um, Kids with CP, um, I think they often gain language a little more slowly, but are very highly motivated to learn because they're very cognitive and often stuck in a body that doesn't go with their cognitive. So,
That's because of the brain trauma through the stroke.
mhm.
Okay.
And then kids with Down syndrome, I often see the same kind of things with the jaw jetting, the tongue thrusting. You see certain patterns more often within different populations. And so for getting a child with Down syndrome to get that lingual strength to keep it back, because often they will not have learned how to use straws or will bite on their straws, keeping their tongue at a flat spot in their mouth, like weak and flat. So a lot of times they can't make R, they can't keep their tongue inside for the T, the D, the L, the N, the S. They're all like, so it and that alone messes with the jaw positioning. And a lot of times I'll see kids
Yes.
that's the resting position, where the resting position should be, naturally with your tongue up in the front with your lips closed.
And that's true. That also helps with obstructive sleep apnea, does it not?
Yes, it does. Uh-huh. Because then they learn how to breathe that way.
Are children with autism as prone or cerebral palsy as prone to obstructive sleep apnea as Down syndrome? Do you know?
I'm not sure, medically about the connection, but I do see kids with CP that have the same, because of the muscle weakness that they need to work on that closure and the swallowing patterns. Um, I think a lot of times I have families that when the kids start to talk, they should lose the nook, the sippy cup, the bottle,
Okay.
and past a year, I don't want to see those. They totally impact the speech, the child's swallow pattern, and I think any of that. When you use the sippy cup, that tongue
Okay.
comes out and it starts teaching the kids that wrong swallow pattern. So it can be difficult. I find myself being even like a behavioral therapist sometimes, because sometimes the kids will look at a parent and because they're ready to go. They're ready to do something. And it's like they're looking right at you. They're not looking at me.
Get me
But
out of here. I'm done.
it's like, can you redirect them without words, please? Just turn them around and let's get back to work.
Right.
But it's funny. I
So
guess
do you work with other therapists that could help support, um, like let's take for instance Jack. I know like right before we came to see you, we literally had an incident where I thought, oh my gosh, I think we're gonna have to call 911. He's choking on an orange, and thank God I picked him up because I couldn't figure out
wow.
how to do like the Heimlich with him because he was so teeny tiny. And I put him on my shoulder and I got him to like thrust out the
Yeah.
piece of orange that he did swallowed,
Oh wow.
right? And I mentioned that to you, and I was like, I need help. And you're like, well, we have a feeding specialist actually, so I'm going to refer you to her. We're going to take. We've gotten him so far. I think that this is what you need as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've used Talk Tools. You're not getting paid by them, but that was actually
Yes.
really cool because they're gradients of straws, and there's a whole process to using them.
Right. And that works on the lip strength for pulling it back. It works on your buccal muscles, your cheek muscles.
Okay.
It pulls back your tongue to get that more in the correct pattern. But yeah, they start out easy and go progressively more difficult, and different thicken lift liquids. There are different ways to help the kids really work on that strong point.
Do you
Um,
think that kids need to continuously use those, or do they kind of grow out of it, or as they grow? Because I've learned that as he grows, muscle tone also changes.
if
Do you
they
notice
need to
that
start
too?
again, I would start again, because I've noticed that some of the kids that I've worked with the parents and we've gone through the hierarchy, as they've gotten older, it's like, well, she still doesn't have that tongue control. So she obviously could still be working on those same
Awesome.
tools again to pull that tongue back, or working with biofeedback. I mean, it,
Right.
it could be a variety of things. Um, but
Do you
yeah, I
find
don't think they're bad to continue to use. And the talk tools, we have feeding therapists, we have occupational therapists to deal with some of the sensory issues, um, the behavioral therapists. A lot of times with kids with Down syndrome, you get those cute little refusals.
that's a
And
very nice way of putting it?
oh, I expect it. And to me, it's funny. I'm expecting it, but without the behavioral therapists, with consulting them, it's easier to find out like how to handle the behavior rather than saying anything. A lot of times, I'm just ignoring and redirecting. So I've learned not to draw attention to that or negatively reinforce those behaviors. But it's nice to have access to those professionals.
So, forgive me.
Sorry. Yeah.
When you think about like all that the children are processing and all that the parents are processing, what do you want parents to know at the end of the day when they've come to see you and they may feel absolutely like defeated and wondering, is my child going to speak? Like I remember one time, like I needed your assistance, and you looked at me and you're like, he's going to talk. How do you know that?
I guess being all of the experience that I've had, I kind of know at this point who's going to talk and who's not. And not all my kids will get to the point where Jack got to, where he's putting so many words together. Um, some of them I'm happy if they're getting 4 word sentences and thrilled that they've gotten that far. Um, some, even if it's just single words, for a kid with CP who can express him or herself. But as the parent, being easy on yourself, loving yourself, not blaming yourself. So many parents allow that blame to go on themselves and take it on, and it's not. And I guess for me, we have to look at all these kids. I grew up with family members with special needs, and like my uncle in a wheelchair who had MS, he was my favorite. I mean, he was my captive audience. I could crawl on his lap and he couldn't get rid of me, you know. Um, but to remember that kids with special needs have their own special, wonderful qualities about them. And I guess sometimes we look at the negatives of it rather than all the positives that these kids are going to bring to us and
Others.
to the community and
Right.
others. Because, for instance, your son is going to be like a perfect model and a spokesperson for kids. You know, I really feel that way. I feel getting emotional, but he's gotten so far and done so much that I picture him at a very wonderful level to be promoting kids with his own difficulties and knowing and being a model for them, knowing that they can get to that point.
Thank you. As I have tears in my eyes, absolutely.
Well, and I know, and I haven't referred kids to you, but I never really understood like the connection of what we did together, you know, and more kids should seek out some of that to add it. The more professionals they get involved with kids, the more they can become an active part of the community.
You know, I learned in my own journey with Jack, it's such an emotional process. And when I felt regulated, wow, he thrived. And when I was absolutely dysregulated, wow, I suffered, right? And
Yeah.
so did he. It was just, it was challenging because, emotional regulation when you're being bombarded with a lot of negativity. And I'm not just talking about like my own self, it was like the collective going out into public and having people assume. And you know what assuming does?
Yeah.
They would see that jutted jaw and think less than or not as intelligent or whatever it was. And it was just, and I could feel the negativity or the judgment. And I would be like, how dare you? Okay, he wears that on the outside. I don't know. You may be an alcoholic, walking around and, coping in your own sense. And yet you're judging my child who brings me blessings and you're hiding at home drinking and suffering, and yet you judge. And it was my way of going, wow, there's so much toxicity in the environment of what our kids are predispositioned to be able to be seen as when no one, including the medical or therapy or myself, know what his potential is.
I think the key is really I mean, it's hard to do, guaranteed, is not to worry about what other people think and hold your head high, because the more proud you are of your own child, it's going to rub off around to other people. And if you're feeling bad about your child and feeling like people are judging them, it's different. But if you're saying, hey, this is my kid, he's got a great personality, he might, his jaw might be down, but he's the most funny, playful kid in the world. And you're looking at the positives in it. When someone gets to know your child, they're not going to have those thoughts.
Right. And I do, and I have said to some moms, which I know I get a funny look at times, of I'm the proud mom of the class clown because he loves having like the attention and he loves being silly. And I do appreciate that because someone has to do that, right?
It's a talent.
And it means that he's actually intelligent if he can get people to laugh,
Humor is not an easy thing to do.
right?
And usually for good humor, you have to do it to yourself or do something silly. And yeah, and if you were okay with people laughing at you and you made people laugh,
That means
that's a
strength
job.
inside.
That's awesome. I mean, that's the comedian.
Absolutely. And we need to remember that for ourselves as well, right? I know that in that whole process, you got to see me where I was. How would you describe for anyone listening what you recognized when you first met us or me? Because I was the one who mostly came in.
I think you were a very typical parent who had lots of
Don't hold
concerns.
back.
What?
Don't hold back.
Don't hold back. Well, this is my typical parent that comes in first time with a child, and it's almost like panic, like what can you do and how fast can you do it, and what's going to happen with my child? What kind of goals can we get going? But for me, I look at it differently. Like, it's okay. It's all going to be okay. We're going to get your child to talk. You're going to be able to say at least words. And if I can't, we're going to find another way for them to communicate.
And what do you
And
see
so-
now
With Jack? Or
with me
with you?
in where I'm at now as we're doing this? Because
Oh,
what
wow.
I'm trying to do.
You are one of my most educated parents that you've dove into every aspect of your son's disability to learn as much as you can about it and take him as far forward as you can by consulting a myriad of specialists and creating yourself to be a specialist as well to give him the best of life that he could have.
Thank you. And the reason why I do that is not for my kudos. I want those out there to know how humbling it is. That's why I said don't hold back, because I wasn't in this space. It's easy to judge and easy to see someone for where they are and go, it wasn't as challenging.
And there are parents out there who are okay with their kids not achieving to that same high level as you pushed your son to, or think that it's okay to start late and want them to achieve all that. But a lot of kids, when they're older, are pretty set in their patterns. So that early start, like you did with me, is often key. But if you don't have the right specialist and your child's not making progress, switch about. Like for me, I love doing prompt. I love getting kids to talk. I like doing sensory feeding. I've done sensory feeding stuff with kids and love that. When kids have physical issues with feeding, there's other people who have more specialty than me, and I would request that they would see them. So your child's not always going to hit it off with the first person they meet. So if they don't, be willing to seek out other people.
So, what do you recommend to a parent whose child does well with the therapist, but the parent doesn't?
I've had that happen to me recently, and it killed me. If the parent doesn't get along with the therapist, but the kid's making progress, sometimes it's because the parents are just not in that stage yet. They may be in denial or grieving or blaming. And there's really nothing a speech therapist or another professional can do until they get to another place. But those kids that have done really well with me and the parents knew that, and maybe we took a break because we see kids for 6 months or for a year, max maybe a year and a half. But then we'll put them on a break so they can grow and develop more. so that we're not just therapizing them forever and then have them come back. And some of the parents know their kids aren't at a perfect spot yet, but they might be at a spot where a break is good so they can continue to physically develop, so we're ready to push with some more. And so that I'm not like making their kids hate what I'm teaching them because they're not physically ready for it yet. So I'm always okay to take back those kids, um, because I know the process everybody goes through. And it's okay to seek out other people too until you do click, until you're at a happy place.
Amen. So with, the kids that are developing and they're maybe not making as much progress, do you think that sleep affects that progress? Because, our neurologically divergent community can have some challenges regarding that.
Absolutely. And kids that don't sleep well come and they may, I don't know, they remind me of kids who are doing the bop till you drop, and kids stay up late and they're trying to stay awake and they're all over the place. That's what it reminds me of. Then they're not able to focus to learn. Or sometimes they're just like, I, I've had a couple that want to fall asleep in the session and it's like, hey, wake up, wake up. But you're right. It's when you're not at your ideal, it's not great. But doesn't that also lead back to the gut issues that impact the sleep?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And I love how you mentioned that early intervention is very important. I know I was talking to a parent who was like, "Oh, no, 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 but we have early steps." Right? And I can see your expression, and I'm going to go there because
Okay.
I'm a parent and I'm not going to put you on the spot. As a parent and as a professional, I would say that's just not enough. Early steps is a nice intervention. It is not the continued support that every parent needs and every child needs. And the reason why I say that is, like we were talking about, like neurons that fire together, wire together, that consistency can actually expedite time.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
don't think that most parents understand that. Can you kind of relay what you understand about like expediting time in that regard?
I guess, it's okay to start those programs and do those programs, but I often think the kids need more. Um, Working in the schools for as long as I did, when I first started, it was really professional. I could see group kids individually or in groups of 2 or 3. I could bring in parents, and I was bringing parents in on buses to come and attend their kids' therapy sessions so they could be a part. Um, but as my profession grew and over the years, the speech therapy caseloads grew to unhandleable amounts. So now the speech therapists there are often very highly qualified, but we're seeing, or I had to see kids in larger groups, less one to one, less parent involvement. Parents often didn't even know what we were doing. And it was like no time to send notes home to parents to say what we were doing. It was just very intense in that situation. So I would much rather have half an hour with a parent in the room watching what I'm doing with their child than having them be seen in a group of 6 for half an hour 2 times a week in the school. But there are benefits to that because they're in a group and they can socialize with other kids that have similar things, and that can be great for self-esteem and even for their motivation to try. But I think it needs to be a mix.
I absolutely agree because I've seen we took a break from speech. We took a break from occupational therapy. We were even doing vision therapy at one point, and we definitely took a break from physical therapy. So, when you add all that, it's a lot, right? And then to be a quality parent or to be, allow the child to be a child in middle school. I've loved that Jack was in middle school. It gave us like a sense of reprieve because the school even had like after school activities so he could actually interact with his peers. And we literally watched our son with apraxia, who wasn't singing one song, and I was a big song singer. We were both song singers, let's be real, right? I mean, every single day to the point that I would have laryngitis. You know, like in the winter, it would be bad. But there he would be, like as a little one, I would be singing the Incy Wincy Spider so that he could be learning how to walk. And I remember going, you could barely do it, right? He entered middle school. We put him into chorus, and he sang.
Even if they sing and they don't get every word perfect, it's just a blessing, isn't it?
It was like, thank you, Anne.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you to the chorus teacher. Because who would have thought that music is so impactful? It has like the memory that can create, right? The timing, the math concepts. You take for granted like certain like skills that are just naturally developed in something so simple and so fun.
You have to give yourself credit for some of that too, because I can't tell you all the songs we sang in therapy as rewards that he wanted to work for. Oh, yeah. I had never even heard of Gangnam Style before Jack Jack.
We can blame his cousins for that. I still do.
Oh, the funny things. 'Cause he always had certain songs he wanted to sing. And if I gave him a microphone, he was there doing his best to do it.
Right?
So yeah, it was a lot of encouragement through fun and laughter. But I think it's great when we show that we don't sing like I don't sing professionally. I just like to do it, and I sound terrible, but I have fun doing it. So it's like
and it's super
rock and
contagious,
roll.
right?
Yeah.
Go to a concert, and it's super contagious, right?
Exactly.
We just did actually in March. We went to our first concert because Jack had mentioned, Andy Grammer is coming like March 23rd. And I'm like, what are the chances? And after like the second or third time that he mentioned it, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and see, is Andy Grammer actually coming to concert? And like, holy schmoly, my kid is right. He's in like the East Coast on March 23rd. And I looked at where it was, and it was the Hard Rock Cafe, and I was like, "Oh no, that's that's gonna be like a sensory overload, not just for him, but for me." And I want him to be successful having his first concert. And we found this quaint concert hall that had elevated box seats overlooking the stage. So there we were, freaking Andy Grammer right down there.
Oh,
And it
cool.
was so cool, and it was just the three of us.
Oh, he should have known that you were there. Somehow somebody should have connected with him to let him know that you guys were there.
Oh, believe me, I tried. And he definitely saw us because we were right there, right above him. And it was just such a blessing. Like, we took some headphones just in case it was going to be overwhelming because sound can be a lot. And Doug and I were comfortable, and Jack had his sensory headphones on and just had a blast. And I was comfortable that his ears weren't getting blown out like for his first concert.
Perfect, yeah.
But to actually see Jack singing every song was just like, and to know the whole playlist after the concert was done, that's incredible,
talent, right? That's great memory skills. But those also play a role in language, the language development through song, sentence formation through song, all of that. Very cool.
Truly. So what other fun activities can parents do in a fun way to develop sentence? Because I know like in the very beginning, it's all like parallel play and I'm hoping that my child will play along with your child, and yes, they're going to kind of do like their own independent thing as they're parallel playing. What can we do to like engage kids to maybe interact with other kids to engage in conversation and develop skills?
Oh, I love supervised play with the kids. And I love when parents model what the child should be saying. Um,
So playing dolls.
Playing dolls, playing any kind of game. I like particular game Pop the Pig because you get to pass the whole toy back and forth to kind of show turns. Who gets the turn? Who gets to say what? But there are questions on the internet that you can print out too that can go along with, instead of using the dice, you can pick a question that the kid has to answer or name things.
Oh, the
Which,
head games.
oh yeah, I love the headbands too. Um, there's a lot of different fun games that kids can do to tell about it. A lot of kids will just name what's on your head, but then it goes through the whole language like, you could have said this, you know. But don't forget the social language. When parents are playing, a lot of the parents think, let's learn ABC 1, 2, 3. My kid knows the colors, the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, but that has nothing to do with social interactions. I want to hear the woohoo! All right, mom, your turn. Mom, up, mom, milk, please.
Right.
That kind of thing. I always like to hear like the person's name and then the object or action afterwards, rather than I want, I want, I want, I want. I'm like the terrible promoter. I mean, even with devices, I like to have everybody in the family's picture, anybody they're involved with the picture on the tablet, because I want to go from that word to an action word rather than the I want. I want all the social words, even if they're inappropriate social words. I have a lot of kids that'll say, what the? You know, and it's like, okay, even in Spanish. But absolutely, I think those are the things that the kids are going to learn and model. But for sentences, I think it's important that we model the sentences that they could be saying in the way they say it. Because I love a lot, like, if you say, do you want milk? Do you want milk? Do you want this? Do you want that? You can model also, like, I want. I want milk, or, you know, modeling it like in Spanish. A lot of
Yo
kids will say,
quiero.
¿Quieres agua? And I'm like, no. Oh, yo quiero agua. Mommy, quiero agua. So that they can learn how they're supposed to say it rather than just
Right.
modeling it. But I like to do the person and the action and object when you're modeling sentences for kids rather than the I want. I know some professionals might disagree with me.
No, I
But
love it.
I love that connection with mom. It has to be the social connection for me.
Okay. Um, wow. I could talk to you all day long and ask you a ton of questions, and I've so enjoyed doing this. And if you can think of anything else that you would love to share, or have we kind
Early
of,
intervention. Be
yeah.
easy on yourself. Be easy on the kids. Make it play. Um, Look up language strategies to make them talk, because there's a lot of things we do playfully, whether we're hiding something. I would say one of my favorites is always to mess up the play, because then they have a reason to talk to me. But there's so much you can do to look up language strategies and make it fun. But I always say play should be face to face at eye level and have a good time.
And I think that the internet has definitely changed since Jack was little, right? And that has definitely expedited in an overwhelming way as well the learning curve. Right now, I think there's a bit of pressure for parents to be like, I've got to be a great parent because all the information is out there. And I think the internet can be overwhelming. So get the right support. Like if I were to say anything, find someone who really grounds you. Like you definitely, at the time that I was panicking with you, you were absolutely right. I was going through 7 different IEP meetings, and it was the year of hell, if I may be so bluntly honest, where every IEP meeting, and one of them was 7 hours long. And I'm like, don't these people have jobs? But seriously, I was just like, how much am I going to hear that my child isn't, excelling, and we're going to do this all day long? So, you during that time where I was hearing how he wasn't perfect helped me see the beauty in him.
And celebrate the little things.
So if I can give a parent any insight, it's build yourself that emotional support team around you that lifts you up so that you can do the same for your child. And I am absolutely grateful and blessed that you were in our lives.
I love you guys.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
And if anyone would like to get a hold of you, how can they do so?
Sneaky trick question. I can be found on the internet, but I'm currently working for Lee Health.
At the Golisano,
At the Golisano Lee Health on Pine Ridge and Livingston in Naples. I may be switching to the Immokalee location at some point whenever that's built, after December or January.
Oh,
it's
cool.
a slow switch, but I live closer in that direction. But no matter where I'm at, just find a therapist that goes well with your child. It might not always be me, but there are other therapists that do prompt if your child needs prompt. The prompt website will have lists of people in the area that have had certifications. So
what does prompt stand for? May I ask? Do you know?
Or
did I just put you on the hot seat?
Yeah, you did. I can't remember. It's for prompts for restructuring, oral,
mandibular
movements. I forget. I forgot what it stands for. Now I'm
Okay.
in trouble.
So it's an acronym.
It's an acronym.
PROMPT.
Correct.
And
it's for the oral movement, for structuring the oral movements.
Okay.
Gee, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but they're a wonderful company, and they do have a map of all their certified individuals. They'll have the list of those who have taken the intro course, and really, if they've had the intro course and then they're trying to use it, that's really all they need. When I started, after I did the intro, I think I plastered all the pictures of all the different ways I had to prompt on the wall, so I would remember how do I do this, and I could look it up. But
that's how I learned energy work.
Yep.
Right? The first form, it was like 32 points on the head. Okay, let me remember all the 32 points on the head. Okay, if I can do that.
then you get it
Right?
after a while. It starts to come naturally. But yes, I'm working for Lee Health currently, and my opinion might not be the same as the rest of the people, so I don't, my opinions don't represent them or all the professionals there. This is me giving my opinion and on my experiences.
And I am grateful for that.
Thank you.
Right? And thank you for being absolutely honest and not holding back, especially when I asked, how did you see me? Because I do want to pay it forward to the additional needs community. It is not the easiest road to embark on. It is the most beautiful and gratifying if you allow it to be, and if you recognize your own beauty in the process, and you embrace your perfectly imperfect idiosyncrasies.
Exactly. And I have to say, I didn't always know what you were doing with Jack, but I know it was powerful. And I know the one time when I had that injection, the stupid flu shot, and I was hurting so bad for doing prompts, and you grabbed my arm, and I could feel everything moving inside my arm. I mean, I know you're powerful in what you do, and I wish more people would use you for what your talents are.
Thank you. Thank you. We forget how powerful we are. I'm not the healer. You are. I'm just like the conduit to remind you and your body that you are made perfectly imperfect in God's innate pattern. And that's all I'm helping to instill, and that's what I've done with Jack. So thank you for coming on to Down to Heal, and I look forward to doing this again if you'll.
Oh, absolutely. You
Wonderful.
know me.
All right.
Another topic, another time.
Right. I'm going to
All
have
right.
to give you a hug, honey.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Healing doesn't belong to one person. It belongs to all of us. It lives in how we care for ourselves and how we show up for each other. Thank you for joining us on Down to Heal, a space where we don't escape the mess. We meet it with heart, with courage, with curiosity. This podcast is part of a bigger movement, a remembering that healing is relational, that community is sacred medicine, and that we rise by tending to the roots. And that real change begins by tending to what's been ignored for too long. Through Synchronicity and Additional Needs Incorporated, I walk alongside parents, practitioners, and families navigating the spaces where the system falls short and where the soul steps in. If something in this episode spoke to you, let it ripple, share it, sit with it, or simply take a breath and remember, you're not alone. Because this, it's not just personal. It's collective. It's cultural. It's generational. It's how we build a world that holds all of us. Until next time, stay rooted in truth, stay soft in your heart, and stay down to heal.